Hello and welcome to World Talks. My name is Jakub Kaprzewski and we record in Sopot, a beautiful Polish city at Baltic coast, where European Economic Congress, a conference which gathers top financial executives from around Poland, takes place. And the condition of Polish banking sector is, of course, the major focus as every year. And on that topic, I would like to welcome in the studio my guest, Lech Gałkowski, Vice President of the Board, Erste Bank Poland.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Erste Bank Poland, a new entrant, relatively new entrant to the Polish market, with the recent takeover of Banco Santander, Polish branch, by Erste, an Austrian banking group, and third biggest bank in the country when it comes to assets. I understand you start from a very comfortable position, but the question is, where do you want to go from here, given your new owner?
Our plan is to build on our strong fundamentals. I mean, we got a prize of the best investment bank last year from Euromoney, okay. and we really know the market. We've been here for so many years, and what we are adding with Erste is a deep understanding of the region. Erste has been in CE for the last 200 years. So what we try to do now is
not many banking groups in the region can actually boast about that.
Indeed. And what is more, I mean, with 450 billion euros of assets, we are the largest banking group in that region. So that's going to help us. I mean, if you look at Polish corporates, when they go abroad, they start with going to CE region for obvious reasons, for historical connections and all this stuff. So already, more than 2,000 Polish clients are there. So what we can do next is basically to help them expand into the region.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that we can grow in Poland by helping companies from here expand abroad. But
Indeed.
What about the local market? Do you see some room for growth here? Why I'm asking, because we've been interviewing a lot of banking executives recently,
right.
And all of them basically say that there is still room to grow in Poland, even when it comes to retail. On Thursday, we interviewed the CEO of Bank. He still sees room to grow here. In Katowice 1 month ago, we interviewed Krzysztof Dressler, Deputy CEO of PKO BP, largest Polish bank. Yes. He also sees room to grow here. So if everyone sees room to grow here, but is there actually room to grow for everyone?
Well, if you look at the capital ratio for the Polish banking sector, we have a very strong banking sector. Then if you look at the loan to deposit ratio, it's super low. So I mean, there is plenty of room for the Polish bank to extend more financing to the Polish entrepreneurs. What is an issue at the moment is the demand, which is relatively low. When you look at the total of the credit granted to Polish corporates as a percentage of the GDP, in Poland it's only 11%. That's the lowest in Europe. To compare, I mean, with Germany, where it's like more than 20, Denmark 50, and Finland 70. So we can see that we have plenty of room to grow. So, you know, thanks God we have now the huge projects in the defense, in the infrastructure, in the energy. So basically all of us, we see a huge opportunity for growth.
But it's still growth on the corporate side,
yes.
Not on the ordinary customer side, right? I am not sure whether I understand this correctly.
Well, I would say on the private individual side, there is still room to growth. I mean, because in fact, Polish people, I mean, are relatively risk averse. So if you compare the indebtedness of the Polish individuals as compared to the UK, for example, we are super low. So there is still plenty of growth. Polish society is getting wealthier and will have more needs. So then the banks will you know, be asked to support the customers in their dreams. So I'm of the opinion that there are lots of room to grow both on the corporate side and the personal side.
Okay. I would like to talk a little bit about the outlook for the sector itself, because it changed a bit in recent months. At the beginning of the year, we had a situation where everyone was forecasting that interest rates are going to decrease significantly over the coming months. But now, with the Middle East affair, so to speak, going on, there's like a consensus that there are whole and possibly even with hikes on the horizon. This is a comfortable situation for Polish banking sector, right? So the outlook is actually better than it was. Well, the outlook was very good like 3 months ago, but now it's better, right?
Yes, indeed. I mean, for the banks, the higher interest rates on the market, the better. But still, I mean, the Polish economy is super sound, so we do not see any potential risks related to, worsening of the financial standing of the Polish corporates. So I would say, all in all, it's a good moment for the banking sector.
Okay. There's been an ongoing debate concerning the Polish banking sector exposure to Polish sovereign debt, because banks have been hoovering up Poland's government bonds. So the question is, given that the Polish fiscal situation is not ideal, so to speak, with the country running a deficit at 6+% and public debt crossing 70% of GDP before the end of the decade, is this exposure of the banking sector to Polish government debt a risk? Do you see it as a risk? Can it go badly for the sector?
We don't perceive this as a risk. I mean, we need to remember that Polish economy is growing very significantly. It's still 3.5%. That's our forecast for this year.
And also 3.5%, the recent, not estimate, but a final reading from Statistical Office,
yes,
first quarter of 2026.
Indeed. So I would say we are in a pretty comfortable position in comparison to other geographies, other countries, because, I mean, the growth will help us. And again, we are a huge fans of Polish entrepreneurs, because, I mean, the creativity of Polish clients, this is Polish corporates, this is what drives the economy. I mean, you might remember, like, years ago, Walesa was saying that, one day maybe we're gonna become a new Japan, right? And what happened, I mean, I can't believe this, but the numbers are showing that the purchasing power of Polish people now are higher than those from Japan. It's amazing.
Lech Wałęsa was right. Like,
yes,
former
he was
Polish
right.
president,
But,
he wanted to build a second Japan in Poland.
Indeed, I mean, but 30 years ago when he was saying this, I just couldn't believe this. I mean,
People were scratching their heads, to say at least.
True,
right?
exactly. We all remember, those queues to buy, toilet paper. I mean, come on. That was...
It's true. So it's not a major risk, this exposure?
No.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit to the question about a credit for companies. You've mentioned that this ratio in Polish economy is much lower than other EU's developed economies. And I think some people are flagging this as not as a risk, but as a major problem, because right now the state is doing the heavy lifting, right? The state is building a nuclear power plant, state is investing in defense, state is subsidizing offshore and the energy transformation and so on. State is building high-speed rail, right? State is investing in roads, in ports, infrastructure. Also, state is building all sorts of things.
Yes.
And it's good because it propels economy forward.
Yes.
However, what we would really like to see is the private sector picking up the slack and actually do something on itself with the help, of course, of the financial sector. Why isn't that happening? Like, our Polish companies see no room for growth and therefore they do not build greenfield investments because they have all they need in the existing infrastructure? Why are they not expanding physically?
Well, there are several reasons why Polish entrepreneurs are not using that much of the credit lines from the banks. I mean, first of all, still most of the companies are being managed by the owners, by the guys who set up those companies, right, 30 years ago. So they are very much
first-generation entrepreneurs.
Indeed, first-generation entrepreneurs, and they are basically very much risk-averse. Why? Because they treat these companies as their own wealth, So what we see is that, and that's what happened in the Western Europe, that when the succession happens, and either we see, the professional managers running the companies, or the second generation are taking over, they do not have this, personal
constraints.
Indeed. So that's one of the reasons. The second thing is that
one thing is cultural.
Yes. The second thing is during the pandemic times, more than 150 billion of Polish zlotys were floated into Polish corporates, and that was great because we didn't know what's going to happen. But Polish entrepreneurs are smart, so they were using this liquidity, and that was one of the reasons why they were not using the loan, because this one was for free, right? Okay, that's obvious. And then you have, higher interest rates that used to be in Poland for the last few years, which stopped the acceleration of the credit needs for the company. So there are different reasons, but I would say again, Polish entrepreneurs are super creative, and I'm sure that, there is a huge potential, and we will see double-digit growth of the credit exposure of the banks in the years to come.
In the years to come, like before 2030?
No, I would say this year I expect double-digit growth,
Okay.
and in the next years to come. I would say what we are saying is that currently the banks, you can divide the banks into two groups: those who already have double-digit growth, and those who really would love to have them. So I mean, everybody is really willing, to even replace part of these treasury bills that everybody has. With the credit loans, because if you are extending credit loan, then you have a cross-sell. You can do lots of other things like a hedging of the different positions, cash management and stuff. So for the banks, we would prefer to have much more credit facilities to corporates, because we can have a cross-sell on top than to extend so much money to buy treasury bills.
Aren't you worried that the interest rate situation is actually going to subdue the credit action a little bit? Because we've seen in the data published by the National Bank of Poland, the credit action for corporates going up once the interest rates started going down. But now that they are on hold and some possible hikes in the future, maybe...
What I see on the market is definitely a good market for clients. The margins are shrinking because everybody wants to have double digit, and not everybody has, because of this lack of demand. So I would say I don't see such a risk.
Okay. Final question. Banks have this good vantage point, like bird's eye view of the economy. So when you guys are looking at macroeconomic forecasts for Poland, we see very strong growth this year, but the growth subduing a little bit in the years to come. And one of the reasons given by economists is that the flow of EU funds is not going to be as big as it used to be, or as it is this year, because this year is actually pretty exceptional when it comes to this thing. However, next year there won't be any recovery funds, so especially EU funds that have been devised to jumpstart the economy after the pandemic, because we have to use them this year. We don't know how the next EU's budget is going to shape up, right, and how much money Poland will get for cohesion. Aren't you worried that we've become a little bit too much hooked on these EU funds for our economic growth? Because right now we have a situation when, for example, when you look at local authorities, 50% of those of what those guys do is being funded by EU money. Take that away, and all those new buses, all those shiny new streets will be impossible to maintain. So aren't you worried that we've become hooked?
Well, I would say there are various reasons why Polish economy is growing so strongly. I mean, internal demand and the investment, still investment in private sector. So I would say, being in sales for so many years, I always see that when we are thinking about the future, it's much easier for us to see the clouds, dark clouds, and the reasons why we will not grow, than to see the opportunities, right? That's natural for people, right? But then at the end of the day, if you look at the Polish economy over the last 20, 30 years, we are the star in Europe, and we know how to grow. So honestly, I'm super positive about Polish entrepreneurs, and I'm sure, for example, I mean, you are talking about the European fund, but at the same time, we have the SAFE program. I mean, only last
EU
week,
defense loans.
indeed, and we have signed contracts for 120 billion.
40 plus billion euros.
Indeed, right? So 40 plus billion euros. So then these contracts needs to be executed, and then local content will be needed. So there will be a huge supply chain needed. So there will be lots of Polish corporates that would need to deliver certain elements to make sure that the whole project will be done. So there are lots of opportunities on the market. So I'm very positive and optimistic.
Lech Gałkowski, Vice President of the Board, sharing a very optimistic outlook for the Polish economy. Erste, for the biggest bank in Poland. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And this was World Talks, straight from European Financial Congress here in Sopot. Stay tuned for more of TVP World's coverage of this conference. My name is Jakub Kaprzewski. Goodbye.